What if one of the greatest civilizations in history never truly disappeared? Hidden beneath dense jungles, its towering pyramids stood abandoned for centuries, swallowed by vines and silence, until explorers stumbled upon them once again. The people who built these magnificent cities developed one of the world's most sophisticated writing systems, mastered astronomy with astonishing precision, and engineered thriving urban centers in an unforgiving tropical landscape, all without metal tools, wheeled transportation, or beasts of burden. Yet despite these extraordinary achievements, much of their story remains misunderstood. This is the rise of the Maya, a civilization that flourished for more than 2,000 years, reshaped an entire region of the Americas, and left behind mysteries that continue to challenge archaeologists today. Long before the first kings claimed divine authority, or great temples rose above the rainforest canopy, the lands that would become the Maya world were home to small groups of hunter-gatherers. Stretching across present-day southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, western Honduras, and El Salvador, the region offered both abundance and hardship. Dense forests teemed with wildlife, fertile valleys supported agriculture, and seasonal rains nourished crops. But there were also months of drought, thin limestone soils, and few large rivers to unite distant communities. Survival required ingenuity, and over generations that ingenuity laid the foundations for something remarkable. By around 2000 BC, many communities had transitioned from a nomadic existence to permanent villages centered on agriculture. Maize became the cornerstone of daily life, joined by beans, squash, chili peppers, and cacao. Farming provided more than food. Reliable harvests created surplus, allowing populations to grow and freeing some people to become artisans, traders, builders, and religious leaders. Villages slowly expanded into ceremonial centers where rituals, markets, and governance brought neighboring communities together. Unlike civilizations forged under a single empire, the Maya emerged gradually. There was no legendary founder who united the people, no decisive conquest that marked their beginning. Instead, countless generations contributed small innovations that accumulated over centuries. Stone platforms became temples. Family leaders evolved into hereditary rulers. Seasonal ceremonies grew into elaborate religious traditions that tied politics, agriculture, and astronomy together. Religion shaped every aspect of Maya life. The natural world was alive with sacred meaning. Mountains, caves, rivers, animals, and celestial bodies were believed to connect humanity with powerful gods who governed rain, fertility, warfare, and time itself. Kings claimed their authority through these divine relationships, presenting themselves not simply as rulers, but as intermediaries capable of maintaining harmony between heaven and earth. Perhaps the Mayas' greatest intellectual achievement was their understanding of time. Through careful observation of the sun, moon, planets, and stars, they created multiple interlocking calendars capable of tracking both daily life and immense cycles spanning thousands of years. Their mathematicians independently developed the concept of 0 centuries before it appeared in much of Europe, enabling astonishing precision in astronomy and record-keeping. Alongside these discoveries emerged one of the few fully developed writing systems ever created independently by humanity, preserving histories, royal lineages, scientific knowledge, and religious beliefs in carved stone monuments and painted codices. As knowledge accumulated, so did ambition. Between roughly 1000 and 400 BC, ceremonial centers expanded into increasingly complex settlements. Monumental architecture required coordinated labor on an unprecedented scale. Massive limestone blocks were quarried, transported entirely by human effort, and assembled into temples, palaces, plazas, and pyramids that dominated the landscape. These construction projects reflected more than engineering skill. They demonstrated growing political organization and the ability of emerging rulers to mobilize thousands of people toward shared goals. By the late pre-classic period, Beginning around 400 BC, the pace of development accelerated dramatically. Cities such as El Mirador in northern Guatemala reached astonishing proportions. Its massive pyramid complex remains among the largest by volume ever constructed in the ancient world, revealing that the Maya were building monumental cities centuries before many of their most famous classic-era kingdoms emerged. Elevated causeways connected districts across vast urban landscapes, while sophisticated reservoirs collected precious rainwater to sustain growing populations through dry seasons. Trade became the lifeblood of this expanding civilization. Networks stretched hundreds of miles across forests, mountains, and coastlines. Obsidian from distant volcanic regions, brilliant jade from the Motagua Valley, marine shells from both the Caribbean and Pacific, colorful feathers, salt, pottery, and cacao flowed between cities. Trade spread not only goods, but also ideas, artistic styles, technologies, and political influence, weaving together an increasingly interconnected Maya world, despite the absence of a single centralized government. Rather than forming one unified empire, the Maya organized themselves into powerful, independent city-states. Each kingdom possessed its own ruler, noble families, patron gods, and political ambitions. Alliances were forged through diplomacy and royal marriages, while rivalries frequently erupted into warfare. Competition, however, often fueled innovation. Victorious rulers celebrated their achievements through grand monuments, increasingly elaborate architecture, and richly carved stelae that proclaimed dynastic legitimacy and military triumphs for generations to come. The emergence of influential cities transformed every layer of society. Skilled artisans produced intricate jade jewelry, painted ceramics, woven textiles, and breathtaking sculptures that reflected both technical mastery and religious symbolism. Scribes documented history with extraordinary detail, while astronomers refined calculations that guided agriculture, ceremonies, and royal events. Farmers continuously adapted to diverse environments, building terraces, raised fields, and forest gardens that sustained dense populations in regions once thought incapable of supporting large cities. Political power also became increasingly sophisticated. Kings surrounded themselves with administrators, priests, military commanders, and craftsmen whose specialized roles strengthened the machinery of government. Monumental construction projects projected authority while reinforcing shared religious identity. Every new temple, palace, and public plaza reminded citizens that their rulers possessed both earthly power and divine favor. By the opening centuries of the first millennium AD, the momentum seemed unstoppable. Populations surged into the millions. Cities grew taller, wealthier, and more influential. Diplomatic alliances and fierce rivalries reshaped the political landscape with remarkable speed. Across the Maya world, a civilization built through centuries of patient innovation was preparing to enter the era that would define its greatest achievements and produce some of the most extraordinary cities the ancient Americas had ever seen. By the 3rd century AD, the Maya world entered what historians call the Classic Period, an age of extraordinary achievement that transformed the rainforests of Mesoamerica into one of the most sophisticated cultural landscapes on Earth. Across hundreds of independent city-states, magnificent capitals rose above the jungle canopy, each competing to demonstrate its power through architecture, science, religion, and art. Although no single king ruled them all, together these kingdoms created a civilization whose influence stretched across much of Central America and southern Mexico. Cities such as Tikal, Calakmul, Palenque, Copan, Yaxchilan, and Caracol became centers of political authority, commerce, and intellectual life. Their skylines were dominated by soaring limestone pyramids, expansive plazas, royal palaces, and towering temples that seemed to bridge the heavens and the earth. Construction demanded remarkable organization. Without iron tools, draft animals, or wheeled transport for heavy loads, tens of thousands of workers quarried, shaped, and moved massive blocks of limestone entirely through human effort. Every monument reflected not only engineering skill, but also the ability of rulers to inspire, command, and organize immense populations. Tikal, in present-day Guatemala, emerged as one of the greatest cities in the ancient Americas. At its height, it likely supported well over 100,000 inhabitants, making it one of the largest urban centers anywhere in the Western Hemisphere. From the summits of its temples, priests observed the movements of celestial bodies, while nobles looked across an endless sea of forest, punctuated by monumental architecture. The city was connected by elevated causeways, sophisticated reservoirs, marketplaces, residential districts, and ceremonial complexes that functioned together with astonishing efficiency. Far from being isolated kingdoms, Maya cities formed a dynamic network of diplomacy, trade, and rivalry. Merchants carried obsidian from volcanic highlands, jade from distant river valleys, marine shells from two oceans, jaguar pelts, brilliant quetzal feathers, cacao, salt, and finely crafted ceramics across hundreds of miles. Luxury goods symbolized political power, while essential commodities sustained rapidly growing populations. These trade routes also carried ideas, artistic styles, religious traditions, and technological innovations that continually reshaped Maya society. Knowledge became one of the civilization's greatest sources of prestige. Maya astronomers tracked the movements of Venus with astonishing precision, recognizing predictable cycles that guided both agricultural planning and royal ceremonies. Solar eclipses, lunar phases, and planetary alignments were carefully recorded and incorporated into complex calendars, unlike any other in the ancient world. Time itself became a language through which rulers communicated divine legitimacy, linking important political events to sacred cosmic cycles. Their mathematical achievements matched their astronomical brilliance. Using a base 20 numerical system and one of humanity's earliest recorded uses of the concept of zero, Maya scholars performed calculations capable of measuring immense spans of time with remarkable accuracy. These advances supported architecture, engineering, astronomy, and administration, revealing an intellectual tradition that rivaled many of the great civilizations of the ancient world. The written word flourished alongside these discoveries. Skilled scribes carved intricate hieroglyphs onto monuments, stairways, altars, and palace walls. They recorded royal genealogies, military victories, alliances, religious ceremonies, and historical events with extraordinary detail. Painted codices preserved astronomical observations, mathematical calculations, and sacred knowledge, although most would later be destroyed centuries after European contact. Together, these records transformed the Maya into one of the best documented civilizations of the ancient Americas. Art reached extraordinary heights during this era. Sculptors produced lifelike portraits of kings and nobles. Potters decorated elegant vessels with scenes of mythology, court life, and ritual ceremonies. Murals covered palace walls with vivid colors depicting celebrations, warfare, diplomacy, and religious processions. Jewelry crafted from jade, shell, and obsidian reflected both exceptional craftsmanship and deep symbolic meaning. Every artistic achievement reinforced the authority of rulers, while celebrating the civilization's shared beliefs and cultural identity. Religion remained inseparable from government. Kings performed elaborate ceremonies involving music, dance, incense, and ritual bloodletting, believing these sacrifices maintained the balance between humanity and the gods. Public festivals gathered thousands of people into vast plazas where ceremonies strengthened social unity and affirmed royal legitimacy. Monumental architecture itself became a sacred stage where politics, religion, astronomy, and community life converged. To later generations, the Maya appeared unstoppable. Their cities continued expanding, populations climbed into the millions across the region, agricultural systems supported dense settlements, and new dynasties celebrated their victories with ever larger monuments. Rival kingdoms fought fierce wars, yet the civilization as a whole seemed remarkably resilient. Every challenge appeared to produce new innovations, stronger rulers, and even grander expressions of power. It was an age of confidence unlike anything the Maya had experienced before. Yet beneath the grandeur, subtle cracks had already begun to appear. Success intensified competition between powerful city-states. Alliances that once promoted stability grew increasingly fragile as ambitious rulers sought dominance over rivals. Military campaigns became more frequent and more destructive, no longer limited to symbolic victories, but aimed at capturing rulers, disrupting trade, and expanding political influence. Warfare, once an occasional instrument of prestige, slowly evolved into a constant feature of political life. At the same time, booming populations placed unprecedented pressure on the environment. Forests were cleared to make room for farms and to provide timber for construction, and the enormous quantities of firewood required to produce lime plaster for temples and palaces. As cities expanded, maintaining enough fertile land and reliable water became increasingly difficult. Sophisticated reservoirs and agricultural systems delayed the consequences, but they could not eliminate them entirely. Political success also created new vulnerabilities. Each kingdom depended heavily on the strength and legitimacy of its ruling dynasty. Monumental construction projects demanded vast labor forces and enormous resources, while elaborate ceremonies reinforced expectations that kings could maintain prosperity through their divine connection to the gods. As long as harvests remained plentiful and victories continued, confidence endured. But failure carried consequences far beyond politics. A disappointing harvest or military defeat could undermine the sacred authority upon which an entire kingdom depended. Climate added another layer of uncertainty. The Maya had always adapted to seasonal variations in rainfall, but evidence suggests periods of increasingly severe drought began affecting parts of the region. Reservoirs shrank, harvests became less predictable. Competition for resources quietly intensified. What had once been manageable environmental challenges gradually became systemic pressures affecting multiple kingdoms simultaneously. Perhaps the greatest weakness lay in the very structure that had fueled centuries of innovation. The Maya never united under a single empire. Their independent city-states excelled through competition, but they also struggled to cooperate when faced with challenges that extended beyond any individual kingdom. Each ruler focused first on protecting his own dynasty, often at the expense of broader regional stability. None of these warning signs alone guaranteed disaster. Great civilizations have survived wars, droughts, political upheaval, and economic strain before. But together they formed a dangerous convergence that few living at the time could fully recognize. The monuments still rose, the ceremonies still filled the plazas, kings continued proclaiming glorious victories. Yet beneath the confidence of the classic Maya world, the foundations had begun to shift, and the forces gathering in the shadows would soon reshape the destiny of an entire civilization. The warning signs that had quietly accumulated over generations could no longer be hidden. Beginning in the late 8th century, inscriptions that once celebrated victories, royal ceremonies, and monumental achievements became increasingly scarce across much of the southern Maya lowlands. Construction slowed, dynasties that had ruled for centuries disappeared from the historical record. Cities that had seemed destined to endure forever entered a period of profound uncertainty. For generations, scholars searched for a single explanation. Some proposed foreign invasion. Others believed disease swept through the population or that a sudden natural disaster destroyed the civilization. Today, decades of archaeological research tell a far more complex story. The Maya did not fall because of one catastrophic event. Their decline emerged from the convergence of political instability, environmental stress, prolonged warfare, economic disruption, and repeated droughts that reinforced one another until entire kingdoms could no longer recover. Climate records preserved in cave formations and lake sediments reveal that between roughly AD 800 and 950, parts of the Maya world experienced a series of unusually severe and prolonged droughts. In a civilization where millions depended on carefully managed rainfall and reservoirs, even a few consecutive years of failed harvests could strain communities. When those dry periods extended over decades, the consequences became devastating. Reservoirs dwindled, crops withered, and food shortages spread across regions already burdened by growing populations. The drought alone did not destroy the Maya. For centuries, they had demonstrated remarkable resilience in adapting to changing environmental conditions. But this time, the climate crisis arrived alongside relentless political conflict. Rival city-states intensified their campaigns against one another, consuming valuable resources that might otherwise have strengthened food production or maintained vital infrastructure. Trade routes became increasingly dangerous, alliances fractured, captured rulers were humiliated or executed, leaving political vacuums that destabilized entire kingdoms. As confidence in royal leadership weakened, the foundations of Maya society began to shift. Kings had long claimed that their sacred relationship with the gods ensured prosperity and balance. When harvests repeatedly failed, despite elaborate ceremonies and sacrifices, many subjects likely questioned whether their rulers still possessed divine favor. The legitimacy that had united cities for centuries gradually eroded. Without widespread trust in their leadership, governments struggled to organize the labor needed to maintain reservoirs, terraces, roads, and monumental architecture. Environmental pressures also intensified through centuries of human activity. Expanding populations had cleared vast areas of forest to produce farmland and construction materials. Deforestation altered local ecosystems, increasing soil erosion and reducing the landscape's ability to retain moisture during increasingly severe dry seasons. Agricultural systems that had sustained remarkable urban growth now faced mounting challenges just as the climate became less predictable. One by one, many of the great southern cities entered irreversible decline. Tikal, once among the most powerful capitals in the Americas, gradually lost population. Its magnificent plazas fell silent. Palaces that had housed generations of rulers stood abandoned. At Copan, the dynasty that had endured for nearly 4 centuries came to an end. Across the southern lowlands, temples that had once echoed with ceremonies slowly disappeared beneath advancing vegetation, as nature reclaimed the stone. The collapse was neither immediate nor uniform. Some cities declined rapidly, while others adapted for generations. Northern centers such as Chichen Itza rose in prominence even as many southern kingdoms faded, demonstrating that Maya civilization itself continued evolving rather than vanishing overnight. Trade persisted in new forms. Political power shifted geographically instead of disappearing completely. The story was one of transformation as much as destruction. By around AD 900, however, the classic Maya world had fundamentally changed. Monumental inscriptions largely ceased across many regions. Massive construction projects ended. Once thriving capitals lost much of their population as families migrated toward more sustainable areas or dispersed into smaller rural communities. The intricate network of competing classic kingdoms that had dominated Mesoamerica for centuries no longer existed. When Spanish explorers eventually entered the region in the 16th century, they encountered thriving Maya communities rather than a lost civilization. Powerful kingdoms still existed in parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, and independent Maya states resisted European conquest for generations. In fact, the last independent Maya kingdom, Nocbaten, did not fall until 1697, more than 7 centuries after the decline of many classic cities. The civilization had transformed dramatically, but it had never truly disappeared. What collapsed was not the Maya people, but a particular political and cultural system that had reached extraordinary heights before succumbing to the cumulative weight of interconnected crises. No single drought, war, or failed king ended the classic era. Instead, each challenge magnified the next until a civilization renowned for its ingenuity could no longer sustain the institutions that had once made it so powerful. Yet the end of the classic kingdoms was not the end of the Maya story. Today, more than 7 million Maya people live across Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. They continue to speak dozens of Maya languages, preserve ancient traditions, celebrate cultural festivals, cultivate ancestral crops, and maintain identities that stretch back thousands of years. Their history is not confined to archaeological sites or museum collections. It lives within vibrant communities whose resilience has outlasted empires, colonial conquest, and centuries of change. Modern archaeology continues to reshape our understanding of this remarkable civilization. Technologies such as LiDAR have revealed thousands of previously hidden structures beneath dense rainforest canopies, exposing sprawling cities, highways, terraces, and defensive fortifications that remained invisible for centuries. Each new discovery reminds us that much of the Maya world is still waiting to be uncovered. Their achievements remain extraordinary. They developed one of the world's few independently invented writing systems, pioneered sophisticated mathematics that embraced the concept of zero, built monumental cities without metal tools or draft animals, and created calendars and astronomical observations whose precision continues to impress modern scientists. Their art, architecture, engineering, and intellectual accomplishments stand among humanity's greatest cultural achievements. Perhaps the Maya offer a lesson that feels especially relevant today. Great civilizations rarely collapse because of a single crisis. More often, they weaken when environmental pressures, political division, economic instability, and failing institutions reinforce one another until resilience gives way to fragility. Their story reminds us that remarkable success can conceal growing vulnerabilities, and that adaptation often determines survival more than power itself. Across the jungles of Central America, towering pyramids still rise above the trees, silent witnesses to centuries of ambition, brilliance, conflict, and renewal. They stand not as monuments to a vanished people, but as enduring reminders that civilizations may rise to astonishing heights, yet even the greatest among them are never exempt from the passage of time.